All right, the price of eggs is still on the rise. The Department of Agriculture has blamed soaring prices on bird flu and is rolling out a plan of action to try and get prices down. Now, some businesses are taking matters into their own hands, including local bodegas selling eggs not by the dozen, but in singles. Yes, come up and get your own single egg. Our very own chief data analyst, Harry Enton, saw it himself. Harry, okay, first of all, tell me what you saw there. You said you saw it yourself, but also, I mean, how are people feeling about eggs? What are the prices of eggs looking like? Just bring me into the egg world.
Yeah, I'm going to bring you into the egg world. You know, I went up to the Bronx, which is actually where I'm from. And it was so weird because the bodega that we went to was just a few blocks from where my father worked, and so I had this real feeling of nostalgia. But egg prices are out of control, okay, Omar? They're out of control. What are we talking about? I mean, in January, the price for a dozen eggs reached a record high. We're talking like $4.95 per dozen eggs, and prices are only expected to rise this year even further. We're talking about more north of a 40% rise after about a 96% rise from last year to this year. And of course, eggs are such a staple of the American diet. That is what's so important to keep in mind, right? You know, we talk about ways that people might feel the economy. You know, we talk about the stock market, but you know, only about 60% of Americans own stock. We're talking about 80% of Americans who eat eggs weekly, at least once a week, and then even more will eat it more occasionally than that. That's a real way that people can feel the pain of this economy right now. And so folks are trying to find a way to afford eggs, and so it was very interesting. I went up to this bodega in the Bronx to see how folks are dealing with it. I have a little thing that I think I can throw to right now.
In the Bronx, the borough where I grew up, we headed to Pamela's Green Deli, where the price of eggs is a red-hot topic.
Now it's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's horrible.
What are you thinking about egg prices these days?
They're too expensive. I haven't eaten eggs in about a month.
Okay, that's incredible. Did you used to eat a lot of
Every
eggs?
day, every day. My children too, not anymore.
You know, it's crazy that we can't afford eggs. It's a good thing that the owner's doing, though. He's selling eggs loose so that the community have access to them.
Selling eggs loose, 3 at a time, instead of a dozen.
So I heard you're doing something special here, something a little bit different, so that people can actually get the eggs that they need to.
Instead of selling the dozen for $12, $11, we decided to sell loose eggs, you know, like these packets. Okay. $2.99 for these 3 eggs. Sometimes the people only have probably $20, $25. If they're spending $12 just in eggs, so it's going to be difficult for them to buy the rest of the stuff, you know, like a bread, butter, oil, all the things that they need to cook.
Are people telling you that they really like?
They buying. They buying. They buying. A lot of people coming and they buy it and they happy because we did that.
All right, Harry, obviously a great journey there. Thanks for bringing us into that world, because now we get to see sort of the macro, what people are feeling. I mean, the Trump White House does seem to be worried about the prices here, right?
Yeah, they absolutely do seem to be worried. And I'll give you a reason why that they're worried. You know, we look at the polling data. Trump's push to drop the prices of daily goods. I mean, the key number here is 62%. 62% of Americans believe that Trump has not gone far enough to drop the prices of daily goods. And when you're dealing with 80% of people eating eggs at least once a week, I think that is a real part of this sort of phenomenon of the fact that Donald Trump was put in the White House to lower prices, and simply put, when it comes to the thing that Americans deal with most on a daily basis, he has not done so, Omar. This, I think, is a very troubling number for the White House.
And as we go, can you just pull up that number one more time about how many people actually get eggs?
80%.
This is the population that is going to be affected, 80%. Harry Enton, always appreciate you putting it in perspective for us. Thanks.
Omar, it was a pleasure to do it with you.
Always. Appreciate it, Chief.
Oh, he says that to everybody.
No, I do not, Sarah.
He only says it to me,
You know what I want to ask? Did you bring us some friggin' eggs? You went to the store.
No, but, you know, I would just say, if you have a problem, do what a lot of people are doing, and that is buy your own chicken. That has reached the Google high this month in order to substitute for the fact that eggs are so expensive.
There you go. That's
they will
the
look
advice
great
right
in your Upper West apartment. A couple of chickens.
A couple of chickens. I'm a little nuts.
Do not let anyone tell you that pushback does not matter. Look at this. This was the headline Tuesday night at the Washington Post. Doge to cancel government contracts that help veterans, records show. Quote, the 875 contracts on the chopping block help cover medical services, fund cancer programs, recruit doctors, and provide burial services to veterans, according to internal VA documents. Also, a contract to, quote, safely dispose of chemical waste. Yeah, who needs that? Look, the word waste is right there. Let's cut that. So this is the VA. This is healthcare for American military veterans. Here's Donald Trump announcing proudly as president, right? We're slashing funding for cancer care for American military veterans. Also, burial services. Literally, burial services for veterans. And hey, just toss that chemical waste out back behind the shed. It'll be fine. But put that back up there. That was the headline at the Washington Post Tuesday night. DOJ to cancel government contracts that help veterans. This was Tuesday night. But then look at this. This was less than 24 hours later. Ding! Under pressure, VA halts contract cancellations in major reversal. After one night and one day of shock and outrage at what Trump was doing, hey, turns out they decided to reverse it. Not going to do it. Don't let anybody tell you that pushback doesn't work. That said, it's not like they're leaving veterans alone. The Trump administration fired 1,000 people who work at the VA 2 weeks ago. This week, they fired 1,400 more people who work at the VA. Leo Shane, reporting at the Military Times, quote, officials said the moves did not impact any mission-critical jobs, but, quote, did not provide any specifics of the types of assignments that were eliminated. One VA official telling NBC News, quote, it's leading to paralysis and nothing is getting done. The official described absolute chaos at the agency, with even Trump political appointees afraid to misstep and incur a backlash from either the White House or the public. As bad as this already is, though, heads up that the kinds of cuts we've seen this far might be an order of magnitude smaller than the cuts that Trump has coming next. The American Prospect was first to report that the Social Security Administration is preparing to slash fully 50% of its workers. That would mean filing nearly 30,000 people who work on getting people their Social Security checks. Social Security Administration has already lost thousands of employees in the last decade. They want to cut 30,000 people now. That kind of a mass firing, called a reduction in force, is reportedly being planned all across federal agencies. But slashing jobs and programs for veterans in particular is not something the Trump administration is going to be able to do quietly with no pushback. That's obvious. Military Times' Leo Shane was on a call with lawmakers this afternoon about federal workers being fired. He posted this quote from Virginia Senator Tim Kaine, quote, I think Donald Trump in 6 weeks has already achieved the record of having fired more veterans than any president in the history of the United States. That is not a distinction, he says, quote, that is a disgrace. Joining us now is Leo Shane. He's deputy editor at Military Times. Mr. Shane, Leo, it's nice to see you. Thank you very much for being back.
I appreciate the invite.
What's your understanding of how this 24-hour reversal went down at the VA? They announced all these cuts and then they took it all back. What happened?
Yeah, I'm not sure that they have taken it all back. We've gotten an official word from VA that they're reviewing these contracts and that they will make sure that there's no impact. There's concerns about it. But I've talked to sources within the VA and some of these offices. They haven't gotten official word that these have been rescinded. They're still working under the assumption that these will eventually go away, that at least most of the contracts they've started looking at will disappear at some point in the future here. So there's just a lot of uncertainty. I think the VA is now realizing just how deep some of these cuts are, and they're trying to claw back. Maybe some of these will be reversed, but at least officially, these offices haven't been told that they're in the clear.
I mean, burial services for veterans, cancer care in terms of veterans' health care, disposal of hazardous waste and medical waste from VA facilities. I mean, this is the kind of stuff. Are they making a substantive case that these are legitimately things that veterans should not have? Or is the idea that some of these things were a mistake and they didn't notice they were such core services?
The common theme with these contracts seems to be that they're not direct services. So these aren't like doctors who are working directly with a patient, or someone who's actually taking over a funeral and actually transporting a casket or doing things like that. These are support services. So it may be a contract who helps coordinate that. I've heard from folks who are involved in benefits processing who aren't directly doing the benefits claims themselves, but what they are doing is they're helping guide veterans through that process, making it easier for them. So clearly a very valuable service, but at least in the eyes of someone in the administration, it's not a direct benefit to veterans. So that's what seems to be the trip up here. The VA is insisting that they're not going to hurt anything that would benefit veterans, beneficiaries, families, but it feels like they're going after these secondary services that are still very valuable, but maybe don't directly touch veterans in connecting them to medical care or some sort of disability payout.
So, folks, sometimes politics is very complicated. It's often more complicated than people give it credit, right? But sometimes it's actually kind of simple. And right now, people, including some of the MAGA hat guys, are pissed at Trump because, one, 80% of Americans buy eggs, and that includes a lot of MAGAs. And the eggs are getting more expensive. It's not like they're staying the same. Remember, Trump promised lower prices. But it'd be one thing if Trump came in and then the prices stopped going up, but they didn't really go down. Voters would probably be annoyed, but maybe they'd be sympathetic because it's hard to make prices go down. Whatever. Prices are still going up, and they're going up faster than they ever were under Joseph Biden. But also, Trump is cutting public services that they benefit from. Remember, look, I'm sympathetic. I'm not one of these people who feels that, we should just laugh all the time at communities that voted for Trump, because remember, the children live in those communities, Democrats live in those communities, all of that. But I do think it's kind of interesting that it's like the red hats and the Trump voters, they're finally getting angry because this affects them. They didn't really care when Trump was targeting minorities or people that thought differently from them. They do care that their eggs are more expensive, and they do care that they lost their jobs, or that their spouse or their brother or their sister or their neighbor that they're friends with lost their job. And they care that their public services, the ones they use, not the ones, say, a poor person in New York uses, but the services they use in suburban Mississippi, then they care. But that's the thing. Trump's cuts have been so brutal that it's hitting everybody, not just the ones that deserve it in red hat parlance. Trump is pissing everybody off.